Welcome back. Also, wow, I am just not in the practice yet of sharing my book pitch at the beginning of my videos. If you watched last week's video, I shared a slightly longer, like 20-second version pitch or like an elevator pitch for this book, and I've been working on it. I've made it a little bit more compact. It's a little bit more one line. So anyway, if you're new here, my name's Andy. I'm working on revising my first fantasy novel with the hopes of self-publishing, and it's called House of Aefdos. Emery Aefdos takes an age-old war into her own hands by defying her father's authority when she crosses enemy lines as an undercover assassin. That's basically what it's about. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the video. I have been a little MIA this past week. Apologies for the slight break between videos. It's been crazy. I've been in the revision trenches trying to get everything in line for this deadline that I have approaching that's coming up this Saturday. Literally a week from today, I need to be done with draft 2, okay? There's a couple things that need to happen in order for me to be done with it and ready to actually move on to draft 3. I need to revise most of Act 3, actually basically all of Act 3, which will include revising chapter 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, and 38. But it's also going to include drafting chapter 30, 31, and 32. It's been a crazy ride, you guys. After a bit of problem solving this week, I've realized a couple of the action pieces of Act 3 just needed slight tweaking, nothing crazy, but the information piece that I was talking about in the last video that my main character, Emery, knew in draft 1, but couldn't possibly know in draft 2, but still needed to know in draft 2 in order for the ultimate final, scenes of the book to play out. I had to really problem solve this past week of how that was going to happen. And I finally figured out some ways that I think it makes sense and also adds some depth to the story and even some Easter eggs for book 2, which is so exciting. So I found a way for her to get that information, which is great, but it does require some changes to Act 3. The great news within that is that Act 3, as I've already talked about, I knew needed work. It was in no way in a final form. So I'm really not that devastated to have to make changes to it. In fact, I'm pretty excited about the changes that I am making, which has me feeling pretty excited to jump in and get my hands dirty. I have been working on revising chapter 29 specifically for almost a week now because that was kind of the catalyst chapter for the way the rest of Act 3 would unfold, because that piece of information that she needs to know, chapter 29 would reveal the way that it kind of intertwines into the actions that unfold. So that was a big roadblock for me. I finally figured out how it's going to play out, and I'm almost done revising it. I have a little bit left to add, really probably less than 500 words. And then from there, I will be able to draft the few new chapters that need to go in. I think the nice thing about the way I'm setting up Act 3 is that these chapters are not going to be, 3,000 to 4,000 word chapters. Most of them are going to be in the 2,000 to 2,500 word range, which is good. I love when I read a book and the last few chapters are a little bit more snappy. You're rolling through some really big plot points and lots of plot twists happening. I think that's great. That being said, I don't want them all to be short and choppy. I definitely know that because this is nearly 10 chapters, there's going to need to be a bit of length in some of them. Trying to find the balance within that, but I'm excited for it because I feel like I have a clear vision for the chapters that need to be written and the ones that need to be revised. Honestly, quite a few I know I just listed a ton of chapters and you're probably thinking, Andy, how are you going to revise nearly 10 chapters in a week? But the ones that truly need revised and not like redrafted or anything are in pretty good shape, and I should be able to tweak them without any major issues. That's the hope anyway. So anyway, that's where we're at per usual, because what's new around here? My husband and I are going to go and get some coffee and a bagel probably at that cafe we all know and love. And I'm going to get into revision. I actually have a very specific goal for this weekend and all of this week, really. I typically have Instagram deleted on my phone. I have had it that way since September. Having it off my phone helps me not stay as distracted. But YouTube has become my replacement for Instagram. I have the YouTube app on my phone, and I have replaced Instagram Reels with YouTube Shorts. I deleted the YouTube app last night because I have a very specific goal over this next week of less consumption and more output. I need to stop distracting myself with scrolling when I'm in a little bit of a pickle when I'm writing a scene and actually sit down and grind through the material. I feel like whenever I'm not automatically in the flow state when I sit down to write, it's so easy for me to get sidetracked and distracted, and I'm just really doing my mind a disservice when I let it check out like that, because it's so much harder to check back in and get the work done. So I'm going to remove the temptation from myself, and my goal within this whole week is to really stay dedicated to the work. All right, my husband's currently at a haircut, but he'll be home soon, and then we'll be getting out the door to the cafe, and I'm going to take some time to do some sprints while I'm there, and I'll probably chat with you guys since I've been so brave at chatting in public lately. So let's get to it. Can I do a plain bagel with peanut butter, a hot cappuccino? Whole milk is fine with that. And I'll do honey cinnamon if I could.
Okay, well, we're testing these. Oh my gosh.
Tell the people what you got.
Today I got a cafe miel honey cinnamon latte with whole milk. I'm not an oat milk person.
And I got a honey cinnamon meal cappuccino with whole milk.
Ink.
And sink.
Delicious.
Yeah.
It's not as warm because it took so long to get this set up. Still good.
We're waiting on our bagels also. Okay, so we've been at this cafe for almost 3 hours, and I've gotten quite a bit done. My checklist is beginning to dwindle, which is great. I finished drafting the rest of chapter 29, finally got through that, which has taken me all of a week to do, so I'm glad that that is done. And I also finished revising chapter 33, which was just a random one that didn't take me that long, so I kind of am jumping around a little bit. And I also realized that 2 of my chapters could be condensed. One of them was only like 1,600 words and the other was like 530 and needed expanded a lot, so I just threw that at the start. They basically are in the same scene also, so I don't know why there were 2 chapters in the first place, but anyway, I added the 500 words to the 1,600 word chapter as the beginning and then made it a scene break. So that's nice, and now I only have 37 chapters in the book instead of 38. So the other good news is that I'm currently at 82,329 words and I still have 3 whole chapters to draft. So I think my goal of ending draft 2 just under 90,000 words should not be a problem, which is really exciting because up until this point I have been concerned that I would not reach that. So that's good. Anyway, all that to be said, I got a couple things done, and I'm thinking that I'm going to keep revising for the end of the week, and I'm going to try to draft chapter 30, 31, and 32 over the next few days, because new content is typically easy for me to move through, and I feel like finishing draft 2 with revising will feel very fitting for all that draft 2 has been, which is awesome. So that's where we're at right now, and we're gonna have to leave semi-soon because this cafe is only open till 4. So eventually we'll head home, and then I will probably do some more sprints later tonight. My goal would be to draft at least one of the 3 chapters that I need to complete today, and then if I can draft the other 2 tomorrow, making it about a 4,000 word day tomorrow probably, then that would leave me with only revising the last 4 chapters for the week, which I think will put me in a very good position. So I'm excited for that, and I will catch up with you guys in a little bit. Sunday afternoon. Yesterday went really well. I know I mentioned it at the end of yesterday's clips, but I did finish revising chapter 29, which felt like a really big victory because that chapter has just been literally giving me a run for my money this week. I know I mentioned there was a lot of problem solving in it. So anyway, it just felt like a really fundamental chapter to the entire book. So I'm glad I'm through it. I'm sure there's some tweaks I'll make in draft 3, but for draft 2, she's done. I'm moving on. I'm not going to touch her again. That being said, there's still some work left to do now that I'm over the hill that was chapter 9 to finish up draft 2 and the rest of revising act 3. I have 3 new chapters, chapter 30, 31, and 32 to draft essentially. They were not existent in the act before that. I mean, they were. I had chapters 30, 31, and 32, but I added in new chapters. So what was chapter 132? And whatever, I'm losing myself in listing these over and over again. But anyway, basically those chapters had to slide down as I saw a need for some extra scenes that were not currently in there, which makes a lot of sense because I've known throughout this entire draft that Act 3 has been underwritten. So I was very aware that there was going to be things that, especially as I figured out the refined version of the plot in draft 2, there was going to be things in part 3 specifically, or act 3 specifically, that were missing or probably could use some beefing up or further explanation or whatnot. So anyway, I have 3 new chapters or scenes to add in draft, which I am hoping to get done with at least 2 of those today and leave 1 more for tomorrow or Tuesday afternoon. That would leave me with Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to revise the final chapters of Act 3 and close out all of draft 2, which is so exciting. I am promising you that I'm going to finish this draft this week because it's been a long time coming and I've been right on the brink of being done with it for so long. If you saw my last vlog, we finally broke into Act 3, which is so exciting. And I've been plugging away at it, but Chapter 29, which was the start of Act 3, took me a little bit longer than I thought. I have a clearer vision and there's not as much problem solving that needs to happen for the rest of Act 3, so I'm pretty motivated and confident that these last 5 to 7 chapters shouldn't be as grueling to move through. So anyway, that's the game plan. I have some time this afternoon and I'm going to try to draft chapters 30 and 31. I already have kind of an outline and prompt written for what needs to happen in them, so hopefully that helps me have some direction and clear vision for it. I'm going to go ahead and set some, I think, actual sprint timers because that typically helps me at least just get in a flow state, and then once I'm there, I don't really need the timers to keep moving, but sometimes that's really helpful. Also, I know I mentioned yesterday trying to do less distractions. I did pretty good yesterday at not being on social media or anything to keep myself from writing, which was great. Once we got back from the cafe, I didn't really touch the book again, but that was because we played some games and we hung out. I made dinner. It was chill. It was a great evening. Got some rest in. That felt great. So anyway, I'm going to dedicate this afternoon and part of this evening to drafting these 2 chapters. I'm feeling really excited about it. The other thing that's been really exciting is that I am finally feeling like my goal to end this draft at 85,000 words is not unattainable. I'm currently right around 82,000 or just under that, I believe, and I have 3 new chapters that need to be added in. So given that each of those should be on the low end, right around 2,000 words, I'm no longer concerned that I'll be hitting 85K. And my goal after draft 3 is to be right around the 90K mark. I've always known this book will probably land somewhere under the 100,000 word mark, especially because it is the first installment in a trilogy. So I don't want to make it the longest of the 3 or equally as long to the second book. I love when I read a trilogy and the second book has a little more beef to it or whatever. So anyway, my goal for this book is to come in under 100K, but on the high end of either 80K or right in the sweet spot of the 90s. So that's the goal. We'll see if we get there, but I think I am at a good point for that with wrapping up draft 2. I just made nice coffee. I'm going to sit down on the couch and get some sprints in, and then I'll catch up with you guys after I'm done with them to let you know how it went. Oh my gosh. Noah, what are you doing?
Cleaning out my closet. I'm not getting rid of this.
Okay, what are our thoughts on the pink and orange and green? Are we feeling 80s fresh?
Let me show you. Swag.
Drop in the comments below where you would like to see Noah wearing this coat.
It happened on the wind.
I truly apologize if I look or sound exhausted while filming this. It is past my bedtime. It's like 10:40, which I know some of you are going to be like, that's so early. I am a 10 o'clock in bed girl. But anyway, I had to persist. I had to push through. I have been writing since this afternoon. I did take a break to clean out my closet randomly. Don't ask. Basically, that was the form of procrastination that sounded the most appealing at the time. But I am really pleased to say that I finished drafting chapter 30 and got a decent way into chapter 32. I've drafted about 1,500 words today, which for the point in the book that I'm at feels pretty impressive given that I am writing the climax of the book. So every sentence I write, I feel like matters and has importance in guiding us towards the closing scenes. But anyway, feeling really pleased with that. I think that puts me in a good position to finish drafting chapter 32 and then go back and draft chapter 31. I skipped that scene for now, or that chapter for now, because it is not from Emery's point of view, and I wanted to round out the chapters that I need to draft from her point of view first before jumping into a new voice and a new point of view. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm really happy with how everything went today, and I'm feeling very confident about finishing out the rest of what I need to do on this checklist to finish up draft 2. In fact, I'm very confident that in my next video, we will be wrapping it up and starting draft 3, which is so exciting. And I can't wait to go through all of that with you guys. Sorry for the chaos of this vlog. I hope it was enjoyable, and I'm sorry for my exhaustion right now. If you want to give me some caffeine to support revision, you can buy me a virtual coffee in the link in the description below, and I would really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next video. And thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you want to be around when I publish and share all the exciting updates about that. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.